Hey, so finally the next devlog. So in this devlog, I'd like to cover really like a number of topics. I would like to give you like a brief overview of where we are, and I mean, just look at the visuals, which we will actually cover maybe as the first topic, and then so that we can actually then focus on the details of all of these features maybe another time, because now I think the game now reached a point where we can talk about the game's progress, because the visuals simply just like improved heavily, animations and stuff. Yeah. All right, then let's talk about the visuals first. Hey guys, it's been a while. As you can see, we were quite busy, and the game is pretty cool. Like it's so what I am aiming at, or what my vision for the visuals is, and is really kind of this thing that I discovered that many developers of these kind of games are not really doing. Because so many survival games or so many sandbox games nowadays are so dark, which is fine. I really don't mind, V-Rising and Valheim and maybe the lesser known games. But come on, this is like there's of course a bigger audience out there. I think there are many players and who simply just would like to play this game, let's say, on a Switch, and so it actually which really then fits to, let's say, Nintendo and alike. And this is what we do. So what you see here, and this is why it took us a while, there were so many things, like regarding the terrain, the shaders, the new animation system, but also, some asset importing, like pipeline stuff, which I will maybe cover later. Which is because it has something to do with the store, because we have a store in which you can really share your own creations with your friends, by the way. I don't know if I will cover this maybe later. But here, what you can see is, how huge the world is. I mean, everything is regenerated. You have you have really like, streets. You have kind of like, industries, those cities that actually have desires, that you can actually talk to some guys at those cities, and everything is generated, right? So the scope of the game is actually quite impressive in this regard, and we've done it. So many of these things actually are already working. And we have, of course, different biomes, as you can see. I think in this video I will maybe only cover like 3 or 4 biomes. And what you don't see on the map right now is kind of like the new design of the map, or kind of an update of the map, where you actually see also the product and the item desires of the cities. So where you basically need to connect your base then with the city. But yeah, I mean, in this video, or in this devlog, I really wanted to show you like a brief update. I will cover all these topics in the future now, because I think now we reached really a point where I can really talk more about some, what we have achieved. Because I mean, as you can see, the game is actually, visually like really cool, I think. And and let's see if I will maybe say something about about the heroes, because of course we have like multiple heroes and heroines in the game, and the footage is actually mainly with Nimoyd, which has a bit to do with the animator, because we did some changes just recently, but like one step at a time. But I think what I'm trying to tell you is, yeah, the game is really cool. Like, it's really visually very interesting, very nice, and we just do it like step by step. And in the end, I'm pretty sure that the game will be very interesting to play. Not just because of the visuals, but also because of the very cool features. And yeah, it's definitely a genre of the game that as you probably know, I really enjoy, and I'm playing myself for like ages. So yeah. This is, of course, why we hopefully also have some very interesting ideas in the game itself to kind of like, push the genre a bit forward, right? All right, so that being said, how do you progress in the game, right? Because I find this always to be the most interesting part, or one of the most interesting parts of our survival games. Eventually, you really want to kind of like know what is like, you want to know how the systems are. Well, I actually plan to talk about this maybe more in future devlogs, but let me also show you this kind of footage here. So as you can see here, for instance, here's the story tree system, which is really new to the genre in general. I will explain this like in detail another time, but it's just to kind of like give you a hint of how many different things there are in the game. Because I don't want to kind of make this video a lecture. So you have bosses, you have boss fights, you have dungeons that you need to complete, by the way. You need to sometimes, you have also abilities. You have, I mean, there are really a number of things that you can do. In terms of then progression, of course, it works like in a typical crafting survivor game. In our case, however, we focus like a lot on the base, so which means you always go out of, so you need to out of the base. You always go, let's say, to the dungeons, and you do something in the dungeons, and you come back to your dungeons and you improve. And as you can see here, for instance, this is when you start talking to different factions. I mean, right now we are using a number of placeholders, as you can see there, like they all have the same faces. But the factions behind actually are real. This is what we do. Like, each faction has its own assets, its own cities. And yeah, this is, of course, I mean, let's see how many of these factions we actually get done until release. Probably not all of them. Sorry, but you probably see like what we do, right? Like what the scope is. And these are, by the way, the worker system. I will not cover the worker system here because this is a bit too much, I think, for like one video. But this is definitely new and definitely special. And hopefully the design is so simple that everybody's kind of like getting it. Design in terms of game design, how you use it. But they are definitely, they belong to the buildings, and which I will cover another time. But yeah. This is, so when it comes to progression, you kind of like, you gather your resources. Oh, by the way, this actually just covered, or it showed also the power supply system. So this is actually one of the production buildings, which I actually show maybe more in a minute. Here, for instance, you assign a worker to a building. I know this actually raises like a number of question marks, but I will explain this like another time. And so you can actually connect buildings, you can actually create these tubes, you have this kind of like factorial style gameplay where you can actually produce something in one building and then move it to another one. This is where you also connect it in with other cities, by the way. And so you do really a number of things in this regard. Yeah. So next I will just, go through, just to kind of like give you brief hints on what we are doing. And here, so let's maybe just talk very briefly about terraforming, because it's such a powerful and such an interesting feature I haven't seen really in other games. And so what we do here is you basically, and this is of course obviously a placeholder, as you can see. And what you do is you place a building and then bam, the terrain really changes into the, let's say, the biome that you desire, and also on the world map. So here you can see, on the left side is, for instance, this is kind of like an ice biome, which is of course not finished yet, by the way, so please don't overlook it. But you can see this is really powerful. This is such an interesting feature, in my opinion, and it will of course lead to many interesting gameplay options, in my opinion. So let's see how this goes. But yeah, the idea is really so that you kind of, that you can actually really influence the planet and do some fancy stuff. And it's not just about making it, nicer, but also doing some interesting thing with the terraforming, right? So that because there's actually there's a whole mechanic. So we don't have like a climate change system in the game, but we definitely have a fungus change system in the game, which is, the fungus is like a very dark biome. I will not show this yet, but some of the factions, since they have like different stories, depending on the faction you are picking, you may then want, or your goal is to get rid of the biome. Get rid of the fungus, or the opposite. Your goal is then to, to increase or to spread the fungus, depending on your storyline. And this is, of course, where terraforming comes in. And so, I mean, as you can imagine, it's a very cool feature. Yeah. All right. So yeah, the following is, kind of like a summary or a show reel of like a random show reel of features. Here, for instance, the sliding feature, which actually I personally like a lot. It's kind of a gliding. I think I don't have a video for gliding in this devlog, but yeah, we basically just add like a number of very fun features. Gliding is of course very important. So this one is actually important for puzzles, right? So if you want to have like ice puzzles, this is the progression system again, which is very kind of like the core of the game, as you can see, right? So there are some conditions, you meet the conditions, and then you progress in it, and yeah, it's hopefully an interesting, an interesting way to play it, because of course each faction, or like say, each character has its own tree a bit, and this hopefully is then, I think, hopefully this is then interesting, how to do it. Here's another example of the same tree system, which hopefully is also cool to you guys. And we focus by now like really mainly on, which I will probably mention later, also on combat and animation, because we do so much about it. Here, for instance, this is the jetpack feature. As you can see, there's also a stamina system, and this is of course like this kind of like an early version, right? So, but using a placeholder, even like the UI is a bit different. You can see on the right side it's not updated. But here's another example. But with a game like ours, so we are adding so much fun stuff to the game. It's just hopefully like when you play the game, it's hopefully fun to play. This is hilarious in my opinion. This is so good. So like obviously we need to kind of like manage this a bit and organize it properly, but of course you have this kind of like carpet feature. As you can see, it's not even so the character is not animated yet on the carpet, which kind of like acts like a hoverboard. Or this is kind of like the idea behind it. So it's kind of like a small vehicle, but it means there will be of course also obviously vehicles in the game, right? So because why not, right? So there are no horses, by the way. But of course we have this kind of stuff, and we also be them, as we had I think in the past also like some mechs. So but let's see about this one. Oh yeah, I think here we show like the hoverboard on water, because why not? And it's just cool. So the game is of course also meant to have a bit of fun. So aside from, let's say, killing bosses and going to the dungeon, doing some stuff. Oh yeah, right. So the dungeon. So here was, I think this is like a very simple video. Maybe I will show something later where it basically just shows the torch feature. This is how we test it, by the way. So we always test feature by feature, as you can imagine. And I think this one is actually this is actually a bug report, by the way. It actually shows a problem with the power system here. And I just added it because it's kind of interesting to, see how even my developer here is actually, kind of like placing, the buildings, and then, trying to get the power plus supply system, as you can see, like even without, I think, audio, he's still trying to, add some stuff. Like here, for instance, he has his power system. He's like trying again, and then he has still no power, although he actually should have power, right? Because he's actually in range of the power grid, and and there's something off, right? So as you can see on the left side, the wind generator is actually then creating power, and it's basically distributing power in a certain range, which you kind of know from certain city building games, right? And I think even from Jurassic World, from this park game. This is just a very brief hint. I did not mention this is a bit older. This basically just proves or shows that we also have like multiplayer in the game, and multiplayer is really, multiplayer, we are always trying also to update like all the new features to multiplayer, obviously. But this is not a new UI. So I will not add the new UI, for the servers and stuff, which is of course obviously much better looking than this one. But yeah, you can see what we do in terms of multiplayer, and you can of course host like own servers, or you can just invite people to your server, which kind of works like in Animals Crossing. And here's just kind of like more of a hint of multiplayer. But as you can see, even like by the visuals, it's a bit older. But it's definitely something that we do. So I don't know what this was, because I actually didn't see the character, but anyway. Here's another video of the story tree thing, right? So where he basically shows like the kind of like a scale. So he says, okay, I'm going to the dungeon, I'm looking for Corinna, I found Corinna, now I can fulfill this story tree, then I can pick the recipe here, I can do something, then I get some money because of the reward. It looks a bit like his inventory is a bit full for this one, but it's of course for testing. And then he goes into it, he fulfilled it, it's completed, and then he wants to beat the boss. So I guess he will now go to the boss. Yeah. So he's basically this. So this is a bit older. So please don't mind the placeholder characters. But yeah, this is, by the way, also the dungeon system, right? So you can actually, the dungeon system is actually quite impressive because it is also generated, by the way. And I don't know where the boss is. I think, is this the boss? This would be hilarious. Okay. Yeah, but this is, even this is now quite a number of... Oh, so he was defeated now. As you can see, these kind of videos are not really meant for presentation. They are really more like, bug reports or, what we actually do like inside the team, where we kind of like share some progress and we can then kind of, try to confirm that it's actually working properly, part of production and how you like verify task management, or how you manage tasks, I mean. And he goes ahead, yeah. And apparently the boss is back again. This is kind of like a small hint. I wanted to edit this, even though this is still in progress. This is basically showing some of the storytelling. So we have actually 3 systems of storytelling. The anomalies, the excavations, and the NPCs so far. And this is one of those. You basically find these nodes, and some of these nodes actually, they can actually give you something. And apparently, I think there's a bug that I just saw. And yeah, it's, kind of cute. So which means, this kind of adds a bit of, depth to the game, as you can imagine. And hopefully it's also interesting to play and to watch, right? I will cover this, by the way, another time. Like, do not worry. This is, by the way, this is about the store. I wanted to add this. So here, for instance, here someone is creating this kind of like, like random asset, right? So he's just, getting inside the game an asset and gives it a name, like trio for some reason. And then, and I think he is a she, so she's actually she's a programmer in this case. And then she creates actually the asset, by the way. And then she is calling like a like a trio block, whatever. I think the best trio in the world is really good. And then she picks up the asset and then maybe adding some images. And what she does, she's actually adding it to the store for free, right? So you can actually then share it then with your friends, by the way. And you say, oh, please buy this, or for free, right? And then you share it with your friends, as you invite. And this actually then belongs to you, as you can see here. And right. And then soon after, then you can pick it up in the store, as you can see. So he actually, someone switched the ownership of the assets just to kind of like show how the placement of this asset would be. And then here comes the asset again, you see. And of course you can place it not only just in a template mode, as we call it, but also inside the world. So, and this is of course quite beautiful, right? So yeah, and here you can just some showing to you some stuff. This is actually from testing, I think this is from the testing of the HB bars, if I'm not mistaken. As you can see, also like the Unity engine in the background, right? And we are here. There's a bit of a delay in between because there was a bug a couple of weeks ago, which was, by the way, about the voxels. So whatever you see here is actually generated, and this is of course this proves sometimes to be a problem, right? If you kind of like refresh the chunks, this can really kind of like lead to this kind of freeze, and we fix this in the meantime. Because sometimes these bosses, I think in this, they are sometimes just destroying the terrain, or you're touching the terrain, and then of course there's a refresh. And this is where it's coming from, but it got better. But I'm basically still showing it because it's it's kind of nice how a developer here tried to show her progress, right? The name is not correct here, Claw, but this is configuration. This is actually my site, and yes, of course, hopefully this is of course interesting to watch, right? I mean, though I have to admit this is a bit older, right? And here you, for instance, like even the buildings also have like HB bars, so you can actually damage, let's say, the buildings of your friends when you play in co-op or against them. So this will be definitely then also interesting, I think, to test out. And I think she is just showing off the HB bar thing. So please neglect like the freezes, because the freezes are really coming from this bug that I mentioned in the past. And yeah, I mean, of course, I could show more features. I could actually explain. So we will also talk more in the future about the building system and the tube system, because you can actually do some hilarious stuff with the tubes, which is actually really cool, right? So you can really like stick them together and do some interesting stuff. But I guess maybe I should actually cover the building system in the next video, because like what is missing actually here, like what is missing in this footage actually is is actually the visiting of the buildings, right? So how does it look like when you are inside a building? So how can you actually decorate, like Sims like your own home? And this is still a different topic. So, but I think you're kind of getting at this point the idea that the game is quite extensive. Like it has like a number of features, and it's a cool game, right? So, but I know like because of the visuals. Oh yeah, this is actually towards me. This is then at the end, I was just testing some stuff, and I just really get annoyed. At some point, I just wanted to test like the combat behavior also of some of the characters. And just basically show off the terrain a bit here, 2-3 different biomes towards the end. Yeah, so you can really install the buildings, you can do. So of course the questions are of course now like what are the next steps? So the next steps are there will be of course a trailer, so it's a game trailer coming, the whole marketing stuff starts. So I like obviously I like to document and show our progress, not only on Steam and Discord, but obviously also on YouTube. But what we need to do next is now, talking to, our PR as an agency, talking, put them potentially to publishers, because there were publishers contacting me and asking me about the publishing deal. I don't know yet about this, for a number, of business reasons. I don't want to cover this now. But, well, this is kind of what we do next. When it comes, of course, to maybe two things. So what actually are the features now? Or let's say maybe 3 points. What I will cover next, what are the features that we are working on currently, and what are the release plans, right? So let's maybe talk first. So what I will cover next will be probably the building system, I guess, because I've seen that I did not touch exactly, or I did not mention too much about it, but it's actually a very powerful feature. And I simply just to configure some of the buildings better to kind of show you like a real production supply chain, and how it works, because the whole transportation system, how it actually works, when let's say the typical problem of Minecraft, if you ever played Minecraft or any voxel game, is that if you leave the visual or the visible area, they really struggle to show actually progress, or they struggle to show transportation of voxels, right? Let's say you have an iron mine outside of your visual range. Well, in Minecraft, there's a bit of a problem. I mean, the community and the modding community found a solution to this, which is kind of okay as a workaround, but the system itself, like the developers, this was not something that they actually took care of. At least not back in the day. I don't know how it is actually like right now in Minecraft, if it got better. So we solved this, right? So we can actually do this. So you can actually build like a whole planetary production system, right? If you desire. So here, for instance, I show you, some of the buildings as well. This is, by the way, like next to a city. As you can see, the city is still not, fully alive. It's just, basically just placed somewhere. But yeah, this is of course what I will then definitely cover next time, because I think it is very powerful, in particular this whole power system. And you can see with the overlays, it becomes so cool actually to use and so interesting to use. Secondly, what we were working next, well, we're working as you can imagine, on multiple things at the same time. So we work in particular, we try to improve now the dungeons. I am definitely integrating more assets. So as I mentioned, I think somewhere is I maybe imported so far, maybe, I don't know, 25%, 30% of the assets available already into the game. And so there are plenty of characters actually are waiting to be added. There are also plenty of assets that are waiting to be added to the game. It's just because of the scope of the game, and because we were very busy with the store. So what you saw earlier, make it possible for you to store to share your assets with your friends, like 3D assets, not just I just build this small building, but actually also animations, right? So our system is actually, which is not something that I'm covering here, but there's a whole editor system where you can actually really, let's say you want to customize your characters. So what you can do, and I know this is now kind of like the end of the video, so for those of you who actually stick towards the end, you can really like replace everything in the game. So everything that you see is generated and actually based on assets and item IDs, as we call them, kind of like, like asset IDs, and you can just replace them with whatever you want. And so this is, of course, where the power of the game comes from, right? So you can, of course, like if you include, scripting to it, you can, of course, create a game that is, let's say, first person, you see? So, so what I'm aiming at, what I'm looking for the store is kind of like the experience of Minecraft and Roblox, kind of like over time, not like maybe not at the beginning. I mean, let's see how far we get. But basically the idea is to give you like a base game, which is actually very cool and hopefully very good looking, right? And then you can just extend it and you can just change it and you can just, upload stuff to your friends and then tell them to, that they can actually play your stuff. And I think this is really cool. And I've seen this, like working very well in other games, like Minecraft, surprise. So it's something that I really like personally, and I was always missing in very many games. And yeah, the Steam Workshop is kind of cool, but come on, it's like it's actually quite limited, depending on the game. How it's like, I mean, like how much can you actually really change, right? And Roblox is an extreme because you can of course create an RTS, so a strategy game. But if we include more scripting, Lua scripting, well, I mean, let's see how far we get. It's actually I really don't care. And as I mentioned, I think in the past, the game itself is actually a mod to the game engine that we are creating. So this is actually what we are doing. This is why certain things simply just take a bit more time, because as you can imagine, we need to be as generic as possible. But on the other hand, it's like huge opportunity and huge potential. All right. So what else can I say? Well, when it comes to the release, oh, by the way, and before I talk about the release, of course the cities, right? So we also extend the cities. We are giving, because creating those, small cities actually takes not that much time, but customizing them, adding more 3D assets to it, because these are actually then essentially becoming voxels. Since the whole game is voxel based, well, this is a bit of special, right? All right, so about the release plans, because this is actually asked many times. Well, as you can see, so we're actually working very hard, and here, by the way, this is. Hopefully this is also interesting to watch. Towards the end, well, what we do is the release will be in next year, in 2024, because whether this is like a full release or whether this is an early access, I really didn't make up my mind yet, because it depends a bit on the partner, like we will team up with, or if we try to establish some stuff on our own. But I hope that you see what we are doing, right? The game has a bit of scope. The visual change was actually quite heavy. It's really like working on a new game, but we are getting there. This is just a bit of like matter of time. We have more and more interesting features and like in the game, and yeah, the game. I mean, the game should be fine when it comes out, right? So it's like it's actually quite promising, and the possibilities quite big. So, and this is actually where we are going. So which means 2024, it will start first on PC, then it will go to console, and then eventually, hopefully, to mobile. So mobile is like, I know it's a kind of like a buzzword for some developers, but we actually really developed a game also, but with mobile in mind, but not in, let's say, the stupid way, but more like in the way, let's say, like games like Minecraft, where you say, oh yeah, sure, you can just play it on PC, hopefully also on a console. But maybe over time, after some optimizations, you can also play it on mobile. And this is why all the UIs that you see are also designed also for mobile at the same time, right? So they are, and not only designed, they're also implemented. There's really a switch in the game where you can switch from PC UI to mobile UI, which is not as simple as it sounds, gameplay-wise, since you want to have sometimes some differences between PC and mobile. But I think if you ever played Minecraft and Roblox or like whatever, these kind of games on mobile, you kind of know the drill, right? And you kind of like see what I'm actually aiming at, because I think this is kind of like what we should do, where we say, sure, if you want to design something really complex, do it on PC, and then over time you can just share your progress, or you can just load then the progress, or you can load the new assets on mobile, and this is of course the fun stuff in my opinion. But let's see, this is one step at a time. The game will definitely release first on PC, because this is kind of like easiest at the beginning for this kind of game. And yeah, and this is it. So I hope this was interesting. I know I covered like a number of things. So I know that there are questions about many features. You can just you can always like ping me, and I will just try to cover these things in the next devlogs, where I kind of like slowly introducing you to all the features step by step. And hopefully this is then cool for you. And, soon enough there will be a trailer, and then there will be like a proper campaign. And yeah, this is where we are. This is what we are doing. This is what we are like. And then, yeah, then I wish you then, of course, a wonderful time. And also thank you for your time. If you really made it towards the end, which is quite long so far. And then talk to you soon. Yeah. See you. Bye-bye.